Okay, so in this session, we're going to cover multi-container pods. And before I start, I will just do clear to see if my nodes are all ready. And I have the one manager and two workers, all running version 1.22.2. How many pods are running? Yesterday in the sessions earlier, we created a dev namespace and we tried some stuff on the resource quota. So that's why that dev namespace is there. So I'm going to continue to work on the default namespace. So in a case of multi-container pods, basically in one pod, you can run two or more containers. Normally, it's like it's very popular for a sidecar pattern where your main application runs in one container and then other logging can be put in another container, which will be the sidecar container. And then it can be either redirected to an external logging system, or it can be mounted on local host, and from there it can be pushed to another system like for EFK or Splunk or something like that. So what happens is that in a pod, all the containers that are running inside the pod, they share the network, volume, and also the namespace. So like if you have a container, then they can communicate with each other within the same pod using the local host, and all the ports are accessible. So you cannot run two containers on the same port in a pod. And also any volume that's mounted on the pod that can be shared by the both the containers. So we will create a multi-container pod, and I have the YAML up on my GitHub hands-on. Let's look at it. It is called multi-container pod. So if you can see here, it has two containers. One is running Nginx, one is running Debian, and the Nginx is running on port 8080. On the container is running on port 8080. Both of the containers have so from the host itself, there is a volume var log MC data that's mounted inside the container at the same location, var log MC data. So what will happen is that when the containers are running and when the pod is up, the Debian container will be pushing some stuff into this log data, and the other container should also be able to see it, as well as on the host we should be able to see it. So I will just capture it from here, and I'm going to we made a folder test. I'm going to do mc dot and I'll put it here. And I'll apply it. Now if I do get pods, so I will see MC pod. It's still creating it. So we'll give it a few minutes, maybe a minute. That should be good enough. And it should be running. Yes, both the containers are running in the pod. And we can see now where the pod is running by -4 wide. So it is running, that pod is running on worker 2. So if we go on worker 2, I'm not going to, but if you go there and you do docker ps, you can easily see both the containers running over there. So we should try to exec into the pod, right? So let's do the kubectl exec interactive, and the pod name is mc-pod. Now there are two containers, right? So if we just exec into the pod --sh, so default container is the first one, that's nginx. But if, right, so we are in just, so if you go on --sh, if you go to var log MC data, right, that's what we were. And if you go inside it, there'll be log data. This is the one because now both this is in the pod, but both the containers are sharing this storage. So we can see that whatever was written by one container in the log data, that's accessible to both the containers. So if we want to look at the logs, then also, like if you do kubectl get pods, normally we do logs, right? If I do kubectl logs for MC pod, it will not, because there are two containers, so you have to explicitly give which one you want to see. So if I do the container dbn one, it will give, there are no logs on that, but whatever, if I do nginx one, I will see the logs for the nginx. So that's the way to look at the each of the container logs. So that's it for multi-containers in a pod, and mostly these are used again for like sidecar logging. Like if you have a database like Mongo containers, normally pod normally have MongoDB running and another for logging or other something, to support that. That's all, and I can show you both the containers on which node. So they were running on worker 2. Let me go there. So this is my worker 2, and if I compile and I do a sudo docker ps, then I can see that both the containers, they are running on this the debian engine. So if I want docker exec if I want to explicitly go in a container, I will do acb8 minus sh, I think sh. Ah, between Kubernetes and Docker, sometimes it gets confusing. So now I'm inside the container, which was ACB, which is DBN. And if I go in there and if I look at var log, and there should be an LC, there should be an MC data, yes. And then if I go, there's a log data, right? So that is in the DB. Now if I exit out, the same thing will be, and now, if you look at the local host, not the container, so the local host where the pod is running, that automatically created the folder. We didn't have it earlier. And this one also has the same file. So if I cat it, it will be the same thing. So basically, that's how, the one, the local host has a folder that can be mounted on the pod, and if the two containers, they both have access to it. And similarly, for bigger applications, this location can be either a local host, like a local path, like if you have any Amazon instances, you could have EBS volumes, or it could be shared like an NFS, which is in AWS, it converts to EFS, so then it will be shared between all the worker nodes. So based on the implementation, whatever the requirement, this feature can be used. So that's all for this lecture. Thank you for listening.